Welcome back. So, today I mainly just wanted to talk about how parents need to pay more attention to their children. I used to have a YouTube channel where I would talk about the education system and everything wrong with it, and I had almost 6,000 subscribers before I deleted it. But I was also talking about how parents need to pay more attention to their kids. This is a little bit different though, because I'll be showing you a video. In this video, you know what, I'll just put it up on screen right now. But basically what's happening is a group of high school boys are bullying and fighting a kid with Down syndrome. And I don't have the audio to this video, but all the boys are laughing and just joking around and screaming and sounding like a group of animals, basically. Another thing that I don't think many people pay attention to, or very few people pay attention to, is that you can tell a lot by how people dress. And I was talking to my girlfriend recently about how basically all males nowadays between let's say 15 years old to the end of college, well, we can even go 25. Sometimes you can go past that with certain people. The majority of these men, or young men or boys, all dress the same. 8th grade boys to 25-year-old supposedly men dress the exact same. And I think most people don't think that's actually important, but it is, because you can tell how people hold themselves by how they dress. And most people nowadays, especially men, do not hold themselves to a high standard. So in this video you can see the boys basically look like they came out of a thrift store. They have trashy clothing. They all sound like frat boys, basically. They're all carbon copies of each other, too. They're not unique individuals. And it's harder to show unique individuals when they're in a group all bullying this one kid with Down syndrome, because they're all acting the exact same. But I guarantee you that if you took all of these boys and separated them, they would be carbon copies of each other. And this isn't their fault, not at all. It's the parents' fault. And you could say that it's also the education system's fault, which it is. But then that goes right back to the parents. Right back to the parents. Because how many parents do you know actually pay attention to the curriculum in their child's school? Probably none of them. None of them. Because what they do is they go, well, I went to school and my parents went to school, so, naturally my kids go to school too. And that's just how it is. But you have to watch out for the things that already exist, and you have to pay attention to them. Like, school came before me. That doesn't mean I should just blindly follow it and believe that all the teachers are correct in everything they say, and believe that school is actually going to help me in sometimes it might not even help at all in any way. And I would say nowadays it definitely hurts. It doesn't help. But parents don't pay attention. The only questions most parents ask of their children when they come back from school is, how's your day at school? The kid goes, good, it was good, and then that's it. Nothing else. And that's how it is with most parents. They don't pay attention. So when I had this separate YouTube channel about the education system, I realized that the high school I was going to at the time, which was part of Denver Public Schools, I actually could not get the curriculum. I asked for it multiple times from the school board, And eventually and I paid for a Freedom of Information Act request. And eventually they said that the curriculum was owned by a private company. It was not public information, so I couldn't see it. Which, isn't it weird that private companies are allowed to own public school curriculum? And on top of that, that you can't see that curriculum? I think it's strange. And I think it's also strange that it took at the time, what was I, 15? I was 15 at the time. It took a 15-year-old to figure that out. But that's how it is nowadays. Anyway, back to the video about the kids beating up the kid with Down syndrome. This is how most young men are. And I feel like you can't even call them young men. That gives them too much credit. That's how most boys are nowadays. And I've spent much more time on the college campus within the past 4 months. And I've been able to see these men, or adults, supposedly adults, and they all act like those kids in that video. They don't care. They don't have any moral compass. They all act the same. They dress like bums, like they don't respect themselves. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is. So, your 22-year-old son is basically the same as he was when he was in 8th grade. For most people. Of course, that's only if you don't pay any attention to them at all, and you don't care about shaping them or helping to shape them into an actual individual. So, I think that parents need to pay more attention to their kids and what their kids are doing. And I don't mean to monitor their every move. I mean to actually figure out the things that other people are doing that could be harming them, like school. And when I had this YouTube channel, I went through hundreds of examples of how school, both private and public school, is hurting kids. And it was much easier to show that during 2020, when there were the lockdowns, because tons of kids were committing suicide because they couldn't go to school and see their friends. And of course, all the schools were happy with that. All the teachers and administrators were happy with that because they didn't have to go to school or they didn't have to work, but they still got paid, and then they got more free money from the government. And so I think that's the biggest thing people need to pay attention to, because there's so much politics within school now, and all the kids are carbon copies of one another, all of them. And I think that you couldn't even make the case that that would be good in any way, even if the kids were all if they were all very good people, but the exact same, that wouldn't be good either, because they're not individuals. So, when you look at this video, when you look at the kids in that video, and how they're so happy to mess with this kid who can't defend himself, and how these kids, within the next few years, will be able to go out in the world and role play as adults, because they won't be adults. They'll just be grown-up kids still. And I think that especially any father that really cares, does not want his son to be a grown-up child. Especially not that. It's terrible. But it's everywhere now. And I think that's why content like the content on this channel is becoming so popular. is because there's small groups of men, young men or boys, that are realizing that they don't want to be that. They want to be an individual. They want to actually be successful in their lives. They want to become men and hopefully become great men that are at very least incredibly respected by their families. And that's why it's so easy to do it. It's because everybody's it sounds bad, but everybody's below you. Basically, as soon as you realize that you can do something about it, and then you're willing to start to do something about it, then you're automatically ahead of all these guys, all these frat boys in college, or, you know, if you're in 8th grade, you're ahead of all your buddies. So, yeah, I just think, I saw that video because my dad sent it to me, and I thought it would be good to make a video explaining how, number one, young boys today, or young men, are so unprepared, and not just unprepared for the world, they're unprepared to be individuals with a moral compass, and unprepared to treat the people around them correctly, unprepared to act in a moral way, unprepared to do anything good in their lives. So I think it was worth making a video on and showing how, especially because the majority of a good portion of men watching these videos, these types of videos, things like this, and lots of other channels, they're all, I would say, between the ages of 16 and maybe 30. Probably a little younger than that, but that's the most important age, or age range, I think, because I feel like if you don't become a man within that time period, or at least don't try, then it's not going to happen, ever. And plus, if you're young, as a young man, wouldn't you want to get a head start of everyone? I do. I think that's awesome. So, parents, don't let your boys grow up to be boys like this in that video. And young men, don't allow yourselves to ever act in a group like that. Just because everybody else is doing something and they find it funny doesn't mean you should do it because they find it funny or because it's cool. Just because everybody else dresses like a bum doesn't mean you should dress like a bum. Just because everybody doesn't want to read or write or learn how to speak properly doesn't mean that you shouldn't do that. And just because people chase expedient ways to live life doesn't mean you should do that. Anyway, I just thought that would be a good little video to make. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you guys next time.